from Andrew.
Andrew is just texting me that his
Yep.
link did not work.
Okay. Kevin, did you
have that?
I will handle that.
Okay. Otherwise, I was going to forward him what I got.
Al, just procedural question. Do we have to vote on the ferry application in public session, or can we do it as part of general session?
Sorry. During just the general work session, it wasn't noticed, therefore it can't be part of the public hearing portion of it. So just as part of the work session.
Okay, excellent. Hello, Andrew. How are you?
They're doing very well. For some reason, the link never works for me. So I drop in the meeting ID, but then I come in, dumb and mute, and you don't know I'm there. So anyway, but thank you for letting me in, whomever did that. And hi, all.
All right, excellent. Andrew, we were talking about, we're going to be voting. The ferry company is going to come in with another application for the same property. I believe they're only asking for a 2-foot height variance. Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's 2.5 feet.
2.5 feet. What the intention is, we're going to have a vote on that. If we can have a unanimous vote to rehear that application, then we'll hear it at the next public hearing, whatever that date is.
Totally on board.
Okay. I'm not going to do that. And I believe Tracy's coming, so I'm going to hold off before we do anything with that.
Okay.
I'm going to have Lisa do a little synopsis of their application. We're not going to have a board meeting. Cindy, do we have minutes that you need approved?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And then I have one other question. This will be a Kevin question when Cindy's done. Go ahead, Cindy.
We have the July 30th minutes to be approved.
All right.
I'm just texting Tracy to see if she's coming.
Okay, no problem. I believe everyone here can vote on the minutes. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, well, Andrew was I'm sorry, I'm looking at June 25th. Yes, everybody was present July 30th, so we can do a vote with Dan, Andrew, and yourself.
All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes from July 2020?
I'm just glancing at them right now, but I remember it being a very straightforward conversation.
Okay, I'll give you a minute or two, Andrew, and then we'll go ahead and vote on it.
Nope, I'm good. The key information checks out.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion that we accept the July 2020 minutes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, so those minutes have passed. So Cindy, do we have any other housekeeping issues with you, Cindy?
It was just that and the talking about the new application for the ferry.
Okay. Couple other things too, just as it affects the board. For you that don't know, and most of you do, it looks like Bruce will not be returning to the board. I don't believe I spoke to him, he's not running. So we are going to have a new trustee liaison. I'm not sure who that is. And I believe the person that will be filling Bruce's position is Andrew's wife. Am I correct?
That's right.
Very good. I don't know if she'll be our liaison, but she'll be filling his trustee seat.
Right, and she doesn't either, of course, but that'll be a conversation.
Right.
We'll have someone new, regardless of whom.
Okay, so we are going, so just everyone remember, I don't even know if we have to vote, right? There's no opposition, so I don't believe there's a big pressing needed to vote on that, but just for a bit of information, Antonio, you're going to sit in Lou's spot tonight. Obviously, Lou is not going to be sitting in on tonight's meeting. He's not going to be sitting in on the board. And from what I understand from last meeting, he won't be attending this meeting either. His wife will be representing him. She'll have all the information, I'm assuming, and you're welcome to ask her any questions you have like we normally do. Does everyone have a copy of Lisa's report?
Yes, I was just going to ask, was there a plan anywhere other than the sort of satellite shots of the property? I was hoping to get a look at the proposed deck, and maybe I missed something, but I thought I'd ask now before we get into the throes of it.
Yes, and we can have him. It's my understanding that you all get the full application with the plan.
Yeah, mine got bounced back, and it was supposed to come digitally. I went looking for it, and I only had the staff report. But if someone can just share it, that's the key information.
Yeah, we'll share that.
Yeah, thank you.
It's also my understanding from a conversation with Cindy today that the applicant has sent over some pictures, some documentation, which I had asked Cindy to have Kevin scan or have it in the proper format.
Yeah, it was scanned and sent over to Kevin this afternoon.
All
We
right,
have
so
four exhibits.
Yes.
okay, perfect. Those I just, since since we had them, I figured let the applicant show them on the screen, so this way we can all see them, and it'll be good for the public as well. No one has seen, just for the record, no one has seen any of this documentation except probably Cindy and maybe Lisa, but no one on the board, no one on the board has seen it. So just to keep everything legit. Did you guys get a chance to look through the application? Kevin, can you put up the plan of the deck for Andrew?
I do not have a plan. I have 4 exhibits sent today.
Oh.
Anybody on this Zoom right now can share a document. And/or Cindy, if you'd like to send that to me quickly.
You know what? Cindy
Okay.
actually did send it to me. I was looking, I gave it a second look while we were talking, and I can see that she sent digitally what had bounced in the mail. So thank you for that, Cindy.
Yeah, you're welcome. Lisa,
and-
I just sent you.
Yeah, and Kevin, I sent it to you yesterday.
Thank you.
Okay. Not a big deal, but everybody has a copy then of the application. Andrew, you've got a copy of it?
Yep, I can share
Okay.
the site plan right now if you'd like.
If you could, that would be great.
All right, give me 1 second.
And Lisa, I just forwarded you the exhibits that Monica sent me for
Okay.
Kevin. Sorry, I meant to CC you on that.
No problem.
Good.
Oops, sorry.
Lisa, you sent a copy of the report to the applicant, please? Is that correct?
Yes, I sent it with we have Lou's address was the email address submitted with the application, and so
Okay.
the copy of the report was sent to him.
Okay. Just trying to think. I don't want to go too much into the application because I don't want to violate any rules. I just didn't know if I had seen it. So
There we are.
okay. So and 3 on there. Good stuff coming.
Let me get the, I'm sorry, I keep sharing the wrong.
Nope, not a problem.
There we are. There it is. So this is the piece in question. And these are the setbacks in question.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
As you can see, that the property itself is very unusual in its shape, and the placement of the house is therefore also a bit unusual. The 16.4 foot setback of the house itself is already less than what is it's less than what's required. It should be 18. So anything that's going to follow the line of the house is going to end up being
Sure,
encroaching further
Yeah.
into the side yard.
right.
Yeah.
If they didn't have the cul-de-sac, the house would normally be set back front yard right here, and then they'd have a big old backyard. But because this bumps up and they wanted to preference the front yard, they're way
That's-
against the back.
Guys, I don't want to go too much into this
Yep.
application just for
Done.
public meeting issues. I'm just trying to think what else we have.
Well, I don't know if Tracy's going to join us or if we can vote on the ferry at this time.
Okay.
All right, we have enough for a quorum. Antonio, you can fill the 4th spot if we need it. Allison, that's not an issue, right? Antonio can vote on this if we need him?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Wait,
Lisa,
I'm sorry.
wanted-
No, I do beg your pardon. On this one, he can't because there's not a recusal. In this
Okay.
instance, it's just an absence. So on the next application, it is a recusal, and that's how he gets to be pulled up.
Okay.
Are we not a
so-
quorum without him, though?
You have
No,
3.
we're a quorum. I just want to,
Oh, he's just not voting, I see. Okay.
Right. Lisa, why don't you, it is what, it's about 7:15 now? Yeah. Lisa, why don't you give us a synopsis on the ferry application? And if Tracy shows up, we'll hop in. I see it. Jen Campbell. Who's Jen Campbell?
It's the stenographer.
Oh, stenographer, that she is. Jen. You can't give last names. I don't know anybody by their last name. So, Lisa, it's all yours. Go ahead.
All right, so this is, we talked about it at the last meeting. The ferry's original request was for a,
Oh, no, this is happening again where you guys are not coming through clearly.
uh-oh.
It's all like, somebody talk, please.
So Jennifer, no worries. I can transcribe, the audio and get it to you if you're not hearing something.
Yeah, this is like the first time we did this for some reason.
Okay. So I'll get you the audio you need. Can you hear me? Okay, I'm gonna text
Jennifer, can you hear
Jennifer.
me? Can you hear me, Jen?
Jen, can you hear us? I don't think she can hear us.
Practice. Jennifer, I'll text Jennifer, guys. Right now,
All right.
I'm gonna mute her.
Okay, perfect. Lisa, why don't you continue with your presentation? Sorry about the interruption.
You're gonna have to
Sure.
call me because I can't hear anything. Kevin, I guess.
Okay, so, I guess, yeah, Kevin will call her. So the ferry's original request was for 36.9 feet in the MW, where 30 feet is the maximum. This request was rejected by the zoning board with the belief that it was too large a request. In addition, there was the concern that it was going to set a precedent in the MW. The architect went back to the drawing board, tried multiple strategies to get the height of the building down to 30 feet. And the wall he kept hitting was that if he was going to maintain the elevator that accesses the second floor, he really could not contain it within the facade of the building if it was at 30 feet. And he really, for the sake of, it was an amenity they didn't have to provide, but they really wanted to make the building fully handicap accessible. And on top of that, they really wanted the aesthetic of not seeing the elevator shaft over the roof line of the building. So he brought back an amended request, requesting to only increase the height by 2.5 additional feet over the 30-foot permitted. That's only an 8%, approximately an 8% variance. So it's a significantly lesser request for a reason that aids to the is helpful in terms of making the building handicap accessible and more functional. But I guess we need Mark back.
Yeah, we seem to have lost him. Ah, here he comes.
Oh, hello. Hello?
Hi.
There?
Hi.
Hello.
I lost Wi-Fi, sorry.
That's okay.
All right. Jen, why don't you, I'm sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
So yeah, so I gave the rest a quick summary. So it's a reduction now. They're only requesting 2.5 feet. This will allow them to accommodate the elevator to the second floor while keeping the height, close to the 30-foot, but also being able to cover, have a roof structure that covers the elevator shaft and maintains that aesthetic, the kind of colonial style of the building that they proposed. So their request is then that since while they're still requesting a variance for the height, which the zoning board had denied, they have changed it substantively. They have tried to get it to 30 feet and we're not able to, and they're really trying to just facilitate both having a pleasing look of the building and also having a second floor elevator. And their request to the zoning board is, can they resubmit and will you rehear their case for a lesser request for the height?
Lisa, did they change anything architecturally? Is the building the same, just 4 feet shorter? Plus or
Yeah,
minus?
it's pretty much the same. They had to obviously, reduce the pitch of the roof a little bit and things like that, but it looks quite similar to the original proposal.
And the reduction in what the additional 2 feet is for what purpose?
It was to accommodate the elevator.
Okay.
So they can actually, yeah, he even tried like lowering ceiling heights and things to get to make the building shorter. However, the elevator was always going to go over that 30-foot line.
It should be noted that if they did not put the roof over the elevator, the height of the elevator shaft would not be included as part of the height of the building, as that's a mechanical. So the height that they're requesting really is just by function of them trying to enclose the elevator shaft into the building so you're not looking at it. Because otherwise,
it's basically, are we allowing them a pitched roof as an elevator enclosure rather than something uglier?
that's one way to boil it down, yeah.
Lisa, looking at the application, what's the village's take on the application? I mean,
Well, I don't have
better than it was?
Yeah, I don't have a full application yet because that's pending. They can't resubmit on the they can't ask you twice for the same type of variance or the variance in the same issue. So it's up to you to judge whether this is a significantly changed variance request that will allow them then to submit a new application. But I think that, you know, we having an elevator and enclosing it so that we don't have to look at the elevator shaft around the village is perhaps a worthy goal. I don't think, you know, some of the goals of, I think the zoning board made a good decision to try to keep the height of that's specified in the code, you know, in the original one, but in this case, I think that they're showing that they've significantly attempted to address the 30-foot, and they have reason why, an exceptional circumstance, to need
Andrew,
the 2.5 feet.
Andrew, you're the architect of the group. This sounds logical to you? This is
Totally. I think I was a little, just speaking frankly, when we considered, and I wasn't there for the vote. I was just there for the first conversation in the hearing. But I remember being frustrated that there weren't a certain number of things done and that they weren't even exactly clear how that detailed works. So they were asking, it seemed as if they were asking for more than they needed just in case, which didn't feel like a legitimate request. But if they've gotten it down to 2.5 feet, then they've done all the homework around the ceiling heights and break points and roof pitches and all that stuff that we were having a conversation about. And they've knocked off the ask down to, you know, maybe 40% of what they were asking before, which seems totally reasonable and better thought out. And the elevator to boot is a good rationale. So I'm all for it.
okay, because you had the most to say on the application with regards to things like the roof pitch and stuff like nothing, you know.
I haven't seen the document. I haven't seen the document, but it sounds as if they've done what it was that I was commenting that they maybe hadn't done yet last time. Okay. So I'm happy to take another look at documents. It seems more reasonable.
And Dan, you have any comments or opinions on it?
No, I mean, I'm glad that they, you know, once again, one of my major sticking points the first time was it didn't seem like there had been an attempt to even, you know, try to meet the requirements. And I'm encouraged by the fact that they did, it seems, make every attempt now to try to meet the requirements. So.
Okay. And Tony, I know you're not a voting member, but any comments or questions?
No, it's just good to see that they got creative, went back and are really advocating for, you know, their placement here. So it's good.
And I feel the same way. I know the ferry company is a good partner in the village. It's really it's an anchor for the village. You know, especially with the waterside community. I know one of our concerns was not having a good relationship or creating some type of tension between the village and the ferry company. So it was nice to see they were able to make it work and want to come back and still use that property, which definitely needs to be renovated and addressed, especially in the heart of the village. So if no one else has got any questions or comments, I want to make something clear. For us to hear this application, we need to be a unanimous vote. So that means Dan, Andrew, and we all need to be unanimous if we want to hear this application. So I'm going to make, and I guess, Allison, the proper format is to make a motion?
Yes, it would be to make a motion to grant the applicant the opportunity to be reheard as there's a substantial change to the application.
All right. I will make the motion for to grant the applicant to resubmit the application with the change in the height as just properly worded by our attorney. Do I have a second to my chopped up motion there?
I will second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we have a unanimous vote. So Lisa, you can let them know that we will hear their application on the next, probably the September meeting, if possible. If not, whatever the next available meeting.
Yeah, the September meeting, I suspect they will have their application in by the end of the week, once I tell them.
Oh, okay, perfect. We're at 7:24. If anyone else has any other questions or comments, Cindy, do you have any housekeeping or anything we need to address? Cindy, I'm having trouble hearing you. You're very low.
My volume was off. Is that better?
Yeah.
The next meeting is September 24th.
Okay. So we'll expect to see that.
The ferry should be
application
on that.
Okay. Allison, anything we need to address or anything you have to tell us or any exciting news in the village?
Well, tomorrow evening, the planning board has a public hearing for Port Jefferson Crossing. This is a mixed use building that we've talked a great deal about, up where the old Bada Bing used to be. You know, nothing like local language like that, past where the old water tower used to be.
Yep.
But so that's coming tomorrow evening at the planning board. And it's really, we're just trucking along as the summer goes. It's been pretty busy in our departments. I just wanted to let you know, earlier you had mentioned that you didn't feel it was appropriate to discuss this upcoming application during the work session. You absolutely can have a conversation about the documents you've seen or not, but the only things that are going to be on the record are the things that you're going to be talking about later. So of course, you know, you can look at the documents, see if anybody has any questions, but just saving your questions for the applicant. But that during work session, it's totally appropriate to actually talk about an application, because this is still a public meeting. It's just not a public hearing.
Right. I was alluding more to some of the comments and questions that were being made about the property, and with the applicant there, they could confirm or deny anything that was being said as being accurate or inaccurate.
And only one note that I just want to make sure that the entire board caught in reviewing the application. The setback variances are for just the deck alone. The setbacks variances don't apply to the structure, because as an accessory structure, that structure could actually be located 5 feet off the property line. The height is the variance that the accessory structure requires. So again, the setbacks are simply for the deck area. If there was no deck, that structure could be put 5 feet off every property line as an accessory structure. So just something to keep in mind as you're reviewing it and discussing with the applicant.
I'll look back at the documents, but is and we can clarify this with the applicant, but is that structure on the deck?
It is on the deck.
Which is likely what's accounting for its 3 feet of additional height.
I'm sure the applicant can answer that question, but
very good.
If I were to hazard a guess.
Thank you.
And it looks like from the drawings that only half of the deck is covered, so to speak, and it looks like some lounge chairs and some covered furnishings are going to be underneath that covering. Good. All right, so we've got 2 minutes until the board meeting, so we can, and then we'll begin. Cindy, are we not going to use Jen? Is she not going to be joining us, or is Kevin going to handle Jen?
Jen was texting me.
I talked to Jen, and I think what's safe right now is for her to listen into the meeting and not necessarily be in the meeting, because it can be it can get in our way. We could try it again right now, but I'll leave that up to you, because we do have the 2 minutes to try that. Or she could just look at the broadcast.
As long as whatever makes her comfortable, or whatever is, you know, I have no problem either way. It seems like there's an issue on her end, if you want to try bringing her in once, we'll
Yep.
try one more time. I have no,
We'll try one more time, and then I'll direct her to either the YouTube link or the attendee link. We have 2 attendees on now. We have Peggy and Monica. So I have told her to hit the link, stand by. This may work out right till 7:30. Okay, stand by.
Cindy, if Jen is not on there, how do we swear in applicants?
That was my next question for Allison.
That would be you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, not a problem. Always wanted to do that, just once in my life, you know?
Well, enjoy the moment.
I'm
Is it one of those, do you swear to-
I'm allowing Peggy to talk, please. She's raising her hand. 1 second. Go ahead, Peggy. Unmute, please.
Peggy is who?
Who is that?
Know. I don't know.
Kevin?
We're going to find out. Peggy, go ahead, please. Okay.
Allison, what's the statement for swearing someone in?
You don't.
Can't yell, you can't handle the truth, right? I can't yell that, right?
I would advise not to.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Is that what it is?
That's adequate, yes.
Okay,
Okay.
Jen will not be coming back in.
Okay.
So you'll do the swearing and I will send her a recording. And stand by, I'm recording this meeting now. And you can go into your session, Mark. We're 7:31.
Okay, perfect. Welcome, everyone. This is the August 19th, 2020 zoning board hearing for the Village of Port Jefferson. And tonight we'll be hearing an application for 5 James Way in Port Jefferson, New York. I'm going to ask Cindy, because I do not have the agenda in front of me. Cindy, could you read tonight's agenda, please? Actually, one last second. No, Tracy? Have we not heard from Tracy?
Tracy is not going to be coming.
Okay,
won't-
perfect. So,
Okay.
okay, perfect. Cindy, if you could read the agenda minutes, I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, 5 James Way. Appeal number 556-20. Location, west side of James Way off Thompson Street. Tax map number section 9, block 6, lot 12.9. Zoning is the RB2 residential district. Property owner Louis and Monica Bukowski. Applicant Louis and Monica Bukowski. The applicant requests permission to construct an attached deck measuring 36 feet by 21 feet within 6.2 feet of the rear property line, where Village Code Section 250 Attachment 3 requires a 30-foot rear yard setback. Applicant also requests permission to construct said deck 6.9 feet from the south side property line, where Village Code Section 250 Attachment 3 requires a minimum single side yard setback of 18 feet. Applicant requests permission to construct an accessory pavilion at the western end of said deck, which would stand 18 feet 8 inches above grade, where Village Code Section 250-28A 1A limits the heights of accessory structures to 15 feet.
Thank you, Cindy. Kevin, could you allow Ms. Bukowski into the meeting, please?
Yes, stand by, please. Monica's coming in now.
Hello.
Good evening, Monica. How are you?
Evening, zoning board.
Well, there's going to be 4 members tonight. Myself, Dan, Antonio, and Andrew will be hearing your application. Lisa and Cindy are staff. I'm going to swear you in real quick, Monica. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give tonight is truthful to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. Cindy, do you have all the mailings and documentation required for this applicant?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Ms. Pekoski, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you do a presentation if you have one. I just want to confirm you received a copy of the staff report from Lisa.
Yes, I received a copy. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to turn the meeting over to you if you're ready.
I'm
And,
ready.
Ms. Pekoski, Kevin has the documentation that you sent in earlier. He will put it up on the screen when you prompt him to.
Okay.
And one last note of business. Ms. Pekoski's husband, Lou, is a member of the zoning board. He has recused himself this evening, and he's not attending this meeting. So Antonio will be sitting in on his behalf. Ms. Pekoski, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your time this evening. So at 5 James Way, we are looking to build an accessory structure on the back of our house. We're asking for the variance because our lot is an awkward shape. And in order to keep it most private for ourselves and from our neighbors, we'd like to request this variance.
Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to submit to this board? Any communications, any documents that you'd like this board to see as part of the public hearing?
I already gave all that information to Cindy.
Okay.
I wasn't sure when you would need that.
Kevin has the documents that I sent out. There you go. No?
I have these documents.
This
and I have the exhibits, whatever you
right.
like.
The exhibits is what Monica
Exhibits,
handed in
okay.
today.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Picasso, we're just doing some formalities here, so bear with us. The documentation you submitted earlier that none of this board has seen, we're just going to bring it up and we're going to label it as exhibits for the file. And if you could explain them as they come up. Kevin, could you put up the exhibits,
Yes.
please?
Exhibit 1 coming up.
Mhm. All right. Ms. Pekoski, can you just tell us what we're looking at? I mean, I think it's fairly obvious, but just walk us through what we're looking at here. 5 James Way is your property that we're discussing this evening?
Yes. So the purpose of Exhibit 1 is an aerial view. You can obviously see 5 James Way in the center and the proposed deck. When you look at 5 James Way, I just wanted to go through the north, south, east, west view and how this is going to affect our neighbors. If you're looking at 5 James Way, if you're looking at the deck from the north, the views would be with 3 James Way. And 3 James Way's view of the deck would be blocked by the northern side of the house. So they would have an obstructed view. From the east, which is 1 James Way, the view of the deck would obviously be blocked by the front of our house. If you're coming and looking at the deck from the west, that would be from 119 Belterre Road. That would be blocked by an existing garage on their property located 1.2 feet from the rear property line. Views from 117 Belterre Road would be blocked from existing vegetation, which the majority of the year has foliage, and that's when we'd be using the structure. The views from 121 Belterre Road would be slightly more obvious, but that's because of the elevation difference between 121 and 5 James Way. 121 is a slightly higher elevation, but they actually have an accessory structure on their property that would be blocking the majority of the view, in addition to foliage that we have planted. On the south side, which would be 311 Thompson, a house that's been vacant for about 2 years, there is a row of arborvitaes. Those arborvitaes now are 4 years planted and roughly 9 feet tall. And we expect to cap them right around 20 feet once they reach that height. So for the most part, all of this deck structure will be private to our neighbors.
Just a quick question before we move on to anything else. You said at 119 there was a structure there. What do you know what that is? Is it a garage? Is it a small shed? Is it a large garage? Is it?
So I do have another exhibit with that, but it is a 2-car garage that I'm not sure if they use it as a garage or not, but it is a garage.
All right, so it's substantial size. It's not a 12 by 12 shed. It's a 2-car garage.
No, this is could certainly hold 2 full-size vehicles.
Okay. Does anyone else on the board have a question on this exhibit? Before, I'm sorry, Ms. Pekoski, are you done with this exhibit? I apologize.
Yes.
All right, did anyone
Thank
else have
you.
any questions on that exhibit before we move on to? Okay. Cindy, we'll label them. It looks like they're labeled Exhibit 1, and so we'll just
Yes.
follow that.
Yes.
Okay. Kevin, can you put up the next exhibit, please?
Oh,
For the
Tracy.
applicant?
Hi,
Hi, Tracy.
I've been in here listening, sorry.
Ms. Pekoski, hold on one second. We were just joined by another board member. Tracy, did you hear any of the previous
Yeah, I heard that whole,
previous testimony?
yes, I heard all of
Okay.
that.
Okay. Then Ms. Pekoski, we'll let you talk about Exhibit 2 then.
So Exhibit 2 just highlighted the accessory structures that would be blocking the view from the neighbors. It was just in addition to.
All right. So, okay. And then can we go on to the next exhibit, Kevin, please?
You want me to go into the multi-page?
I don't know what the applicant submitted, so we could just, I'm not really sure. So if we could just keep sequentially moving on.
This is the same document. It was just multi-page. Page 1.
Okay, that's fine.
Page 2.
Okay.
These are the structures.
Okay, so these are pictures. What this in front of, I'm sorry, Kevin, go back to the last one.
So these are details of what this indicates, and now this is the detail.
All right, so 121 here, Ms. Pekoski, is the one with the 2-car garage. Am I right in saying? Okay, this is the front view from the street.
That actually is, I believe it's a smokehouse. I think it's a historic structure. You can see from the picture on the right-hand side, I actually had to mark it. It's covered in ivy on the back. Hard to tell that from the street view. It's covered in ivy on the back, but it actually sits very near the property line with a lot of foliage.
Okay.
And then you can see the street view of the large structure.
Okay. Kevin, can you move on to the next exhibit, please? Okay.
This is directly behind the property, 5 James Way. This is 19 Beltair Road. This
Okay.
is obviously right on the 1.2 feet from the property line.
And this is what you described as a 2-car garage. Am I correct in saying that?
Well, 117's up right now, and that I don't know what that's some sort of shed or pavilion of some sort on 117. 119 is the 2-car garage. That was the previous picture. Yes, thank you.
Kevin, can you show the board the previous picture? Perfect, right there. Okay.
This is
so
the
119
structure.
that we're looking at is.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Nope. So go ahead. You're
I was just going to say, this is the structure that's going to be closest to the deck.
Is that your property to the left on the picture that you see the lawn of 119 Beltair Road?
Yes. Yes.
So this is looking from your property out to 119. So you're whoever took this picture is standing in your property. Okay.
Correct.
Good. All right. All right. Kevin, if you can move on to the next exhibit, please.
Stand by, please.
Sure.
They're just letters, and first one's coming up now.
All right. All I am, just for the record, I'm going to read this real quickly. All right. I am the neighbor on James Way facing the Bukowski property at 5 James Way, requesting a variance to build a deck. Should the variance not be approved, to the alternate location would not fit the neighborhood and I fear would hurt our property values. I support their request for this variance and I hope you will too. Kindly regards, Josephine Samus. And Ms. Bukowski, which property was this, to north, south, east, or west of you?
The Samus is on 3 James Way. I'm sorry,
Okay.
no, 1 James Way, I'm sorry.
1 James Way, okay.
Facing view, and if the deck were to go in my side yard, which would not require a variance, she would look directly at it and also has some concerns that it would hurt her property value. She is not option 2.
Kevin, can you put up back up exhibit 1 just so the board could see what is 1 James Way?
Yes, stand by, please.
Sure.
Exhibit 1.
Exhibit 1. Okay, so 1 James Way. Okay, it's down here to the right. Okay, so they are across. They're essentially directly across from you, Ms. Bukowski?
Correct.
Okay. Excellent. And Kevin, now can I see the second correspondence you said? There were 2 letters of correspondence, I believe you said?
Yes. Stand by.
Thank you.
It's the one you saw, and this is the second one.
Okay. All right. Letter dated August 15th, 2020. Dear Village of Port Jefferson Zoning Board, it was brought to my attention that our neighbors Louis and Monica Bukowski at 5 James Way have requested a variance to construct a deck. We are in support of this and hope you will approve their, I assume, request. Should their request not be approved, the alternate location would not require a variance, would be an eyesore for our small road. Kind regards, Chris and Linda Lipowski. And they, what number are they at, Ms. Bukowski?
3 James Way.
Okay, so they're the other house. Again, Kevin, could you put up exhibit 1, please?
Sure. Stand by.
Okay.
Exhibit 1.
Okay, so we have 2 letters of support, one from 1 James Way and one from 3 James Way. Cindy, can you make sure you, on the letters, it didn't give addresses of the neighbors? Could you just make sure you
Yes.
write that on there?
Yes, I have
We know who
Samus at
they
1.
are.
Yes, I wrote down the addresses.
Samus, I believe, was 1, and the last one is 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay, so, all right, so you got the immediate neighbor across and the immediate neighbor adjacent to your property. Ms. Bukowski, do you have any other, anything else to add to this application?
No.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to the board to ask you some questions if they have any. The first question I'm going to ask you, Ms. Bukowski, which may be an obvious question, but the letters addressed it. Kevin, I'm sorry again. Could you put up exhibit 1? I don't mean to be a pain.
Stand by. Put it way away, but I'm going to get it back for you.
Sure, no problem. Ms. Bukowski, there's a large piece of property between you and I want to say 3 James Way, yes?
Yeah.
Lisa, would they, if they put their deck there, would that be considered a front yard for them? And I'm asking this to staff, please.
No, they have there's a portion in front of their front foundation that would be considered front yard, but they have a large side yard where they could legally put a pool or a deck on that side of the house. Of course, from the house on 3 James Way, that doesn't feel so much like a side yard because the front of their house faces that yard. But from our code perspective, that is a side yard.
That is, Ms. Bukowski, just go over, let the board know, or let the board know what your thinking was, why you did not put the deck on this side of the house? And
It would just
I'm
be- it
talking
would be
to
intrusive.
the property.
Yeah, it would be
Okay.
intrusive. I mean, it was an obvious decision when we decided to start to plan this, that it had to be in the back of the house. If we put it on the side property, nobody has side decks. And as you drove down James Way, you would basically see our personal entertaining space displayed for all of our neighbors that wouldn't show well for their house or ours.
And it looks like your side yard is facing 3 James Way front yard. Is that correct from the aerial? Looks like
It is. If we were to put a pool or a structure on that side of the yard, it would take a substantial amount of work to hide it from the neighborhood. I basically would say it'd almost be impossible. So for any structure that goes in on that side yard would really be in 3 James Way's front yard.
And you said there's no one else in the neighborhood that has a side yard deck or anything like that would be similar to this?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of. In fact, the 5 James Way encroaches so far onto 3 James Way. The previous owners of 5 James Way actually sold a sliver of land to 3 James Way so that they could exit their driveway properly without driving on the property of 5 James Way.
Okay. And you have, it looks, and as was said earlier, you have pre-existing screening along the property bordering 311 Thompson, and those have been there about 4 years?
Yes, we planted those shortly after moving into the residence, and right now they're growing at about 20 inches a year.
And your intention is not to, this project would not require you to remove them or change their location? Is that
No, in
correct
fact,
or
we
not correct?
probably do additional plantings as after the structure goes in. So in the corner of the property where the landscaping ends, we'd be continuing those at full size capacity.
Okay. And we already talked about you have 2 neighbors that have structures right up on the property line, 119 and 117. Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
Offhand, how tall was the deck gonna be, like off the ground? Or is it?
It's 18 feet 8 inches from the ground.
So it's gonna be high up.
How many points of access can you get onto the structure? Is it just one from the patio, or are you going to be able to access it from the house directly?
There's going to be 2 to 3 accesses, one from the house, one from the patio, and one from the side.
And the deck portion is 16 feet. Is that right? The actual deck portion before you hit the actual enclosed structure, right?
Correct.
So are you able to partition those 2 sections? Will you be able to enclose the covered area and
No.
separate?
No, that'll be an open area.
Ms. Pekoski, I noticed on one of the pictures you have, so it looks like some masonry, a patio of some sort. Are you keeping that or are you removing that?
That will stay.
That will stay, okay. Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
Just to clarify there, is there any way that you could position the deck in the rear of the home without requesting a variance?
No.
Okay.
It looks like from the survey provided by the applicant, it looks like anything off the house would almost require a variance. It looks like the property, the house it was very specifically placed to meet all the variances, but doesn't look like you can put much on it. The house looks like it's catty-cornered on the property. And I believe Andrew said earlier in the general session that if the property was square, the house would be maybe set further forward and have a bigger rear yard. One more time, any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, you said a height of 18 feet and some inches. I think you mean to the top of the structure. What was the height of the deck, out of curiosity?
The height of the deck is going to be about 2.5 feet off the ground.
Okay, thank you.
Mark,
Okay.
there is somebody with their hand raised from the public who would like to make a comment. I believe that Peggy lives at 119 Belterre Road. I don't know
Nope.
how that can be facilitated. I believe that Kevin can facilitate that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd be more, I just was waiting for the board comment, and then I was going to open it up to the public. So
Okay.
let's finish with the board's comments, and then we'll see what, if there's anyone with the public, we'll more than happy to let her in. Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
So the existing patio is on the north portion of the structure, correct? If I'm getting my orientation right. The existing patio is on the north side of the structure, right? To be built, right?
Yeah.
And the other access point, other than the house itself, would be what, opposite the patio? So it would just be step up to the deck, and then step.
Yeah, so you'd step at the patio, you'd step off the deck onto the patio, and then on the south side of the deck, there would actually be another small access point off just to exit the side of the house.
Sure. Any pavers or additional work to be done that kind of leads you to that, or is it just going to be steps down to grass? And
there's actually already a walkway
okay.
On the side of the house that's already privatized. You can see from the aerial view, but there's actually arborvitaes to the front of the house, not just to the back corner behind the fence line.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, seeing none and hearing none, I'm going to ask Kevin to open it up to the public. I understand there's someone waiting to speak. Kevin, could you allow that person to enter the meeting?
Person's name is Peggy. They're in the midst, I think, of stating their name and address. So I'm going to try to bring them into the meeting. They stated there was an issue before. I'll leave it up to you whether you'd like to take written comment, but I'm trying now to promote Peggy to our meeting. Give me a second. See her in the lower right. Peggy, please unmute if you can hear us and speak. Thank you.
Peggy, can you hear us? Peggy, can you hear? I can't see or hear Peggy at the moment, Kevin.
I agree. I've unmuted and asked Peggy to speak. Her microphone may not be hooked up. No way of knowing, so she asked to text in her comments. That's up to you. If you want letters or bring this up, let me know.
Alternatively, maybe she calls you on the phone and you put her on speaker. Is that too shoestring just to get audio?
That's a possibility if we can communicate that to her.
Allison, what would be the program? I don't have a problem with her calling somebody, and we'll put her on. Is that kosher as far as the
Yes.
requirements we have?
That, I believe that would be adequate testimony, yes. Yes. The only hesitation, you can either type, the comment typed into the chat section of this program is also adequate comment there that can be then answered by the board. So I would just remind that the question and comment portion is not a back and forth between the board and the public, but
Is that kosher as far as the
Yes.
requirements we have?
that, I believe that would be adequate testimony, yes. Yes. The only
Peggy, can
either type, the comment typed into the chat section of this program is also adequate comment there that can be then answered by the board. So I would just remind that the question.
Okay, so is everybody listening to the feedback? Can you hear it?
Yes, I could hear the feedback.
Okay, what's happening is Peggy's YouTube is playing, but yet we can't hear Peggy. So we're at a standstill.
can
You
you,
can see-
communicate? Kevin, can you communicate with her at all?
Well, we could see her. Everybody can type to Peggy right now. She's saying, I can hear you, but can't respond. So No camera, no mic, but you can type. Let's type.
I was just thinking maybe let's see. Peggy, if you can hear me, if you want to type a question or a comment, I'll read it into the record for the board. And if you have a question, I'll read it into the record and we'll see if the applicant can answer the question. Okay.
Okay, there we go. So that's
I am
the record.
Margaret LaMonica at 119 Belterre Road in Port Jefferson is what she's typing. I'm sure everyone can see it, but I'm just reading for the record. Let her.
It's a solid back. We can't see it.
I have concern. All right, she has a concern with the deck being so close to her property line. All right, 119. I'm just trying to see which one is 119. Kevin, I'm going to be a pain to you. Can you please put up Exhibit 1 so we can look at what 119 is? I think I know the property. I just want to try to be as thorough as possible.
Mr. Chairman, it looks like the neighbor at 119 continued her concern beyond the last sentence you read.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. The structure will be overlooking our backyard. Our garage is on the northeast corner of the property. So this is the house, okay, 119. All right, this is the one with the garage right up against the property line, I believe. Is that correct, Ms. Pekoski? That's
Yeah,
one with the
I think
two-car garage?
Exhibit 2 shows it a little bit better. It's a little bit blown in and highlighted.
Kevin, would you mind going to Exhibit 2, please?
Something I should point out about this structure is even though it will be slightly elevated, the back of the deck portion, the covered portion, will be a solid back. So it will actually look like a house. It's going to match the facade of the back is going to match our existing house, the existing everything. So you're actually we're not going to be able to look into anybody's yard, and they're not going to be able to look into the deck.
Ms. Pekoski, do you plan to do any screening or or are there existing trees there that, whether you're going to keep them, remove them, and replant them? What is your plan specifically as it relates to 119?
Yeah, so there are 2 trees right now on the backyard. They are in the process of being capped so that further storm damage doesn't occur. But we are intending to keep those trees for all purposes that we possibly can. We like trees. We are tree people. After we take care of the deck and the deck goes in, we will plan on planting additional trees back there. You can't see it from this view, but in the far back corner of our property, we've already started planting full-size trees, and we're going to continue to do that on this south corner behind the deck.
Okay, so she is. Lisa, verify for me that the corner of the deck will be 6.2 feet off the property line. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Off the rear or just side property line?
Sorry, let me see. Let me actually pull up the application. It was, sorry, it's 6.2 off the rear property line and 6.9 off the side property line.
Right. I just wanted mine's kind of small, so I was having trouble reading that. I'm not sure, Kevin, if Peggy can hear me, Miss LaMonica. Miss LaMonica, do you have any further questions or comments? I again apologize that we can't see you or hear you. Okay. She says, this will no doubt affect my property value. I can't confirm or deny on that. And we don't have any documentation or real estate documentation to confirm or deny that. But we do take your concern into consideration. Okay. Again, Ms. LaMonica, do you have any other questions or comments for us regarding this application? I'm just going to give her a moment, because she types anything like I do, it would take her a few minutes to type. So I'm just going to.
Hi, well, I'm back.
Okay, great. Kevin, can you see Ms. LaMonica or communicate with her? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, we just got a from text. I was only able to see the drawings ahead of the public hearing. It seems a shame that when the deck could be placed where there is no variance needed. That is true. They could put it there. Their neighbors would express the same and have expressed the same concern you have about being an eyesore and possibly affecting their property values. Again, the applicant did address that. The applicant is requesting the rear of the property, yes.
I just would make one note that there is not a space in the rear yard to place the deck without a variance. It could only go in a side yard without a variance. Additionally, I just wanted to clarify the point Allison had mentioned before, which is that the accessory structure itself, even without the deck, could be placed 5 feet from the property line with no variance in the rear yard. So if Ms. Bukowski wanted to put the accessory structure in that location, it would not require a variance. But the deck itself is the part that is now encroaching on what is required, the required rear yard.
Okay. Did everyone on the board understand that? I'm assuming since everyone seems to, yes, Ms. Bukowski, please go ahead.
I think that the main point for us to choose to put this deck in the back of our house, not the side of our house, is to keep with the character of the neighborhood. As we can see from the drawings I've shown, 119 has a structure 1.2 feet from my property line. I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for 6.2 feet. In addition to that, 3 other neighbors have structures right up against their property line. So I'm really keeping with the integrity of the neighborhood and not putting something in the side yard that would be intrusive to what everyone would see and would not be in character.
Ms. Bukowski, you just said that there were other neighbors with decks up against the property lines. Do you happen to know the property addresses on that, just for the record?
1 James Way has a deck in the back of the house for sure. I think there is an exhibit with decks from the area. I believe that was exhibit 3 or 4. I think it's 3, exhibit 3. It's just.
Evan, do you have an exhibit 3 to show us?
Stand by, please.
All right, and while we're doing that, I'm going to read Ms. LaMonica's comments into the record. Where there's no right. That not being done, the deck placing is not so much behind my garage as where 5 James Way has, and I lost the comments.
Sorry,
reading them once we get them back.
I'm getting my exhibits messed up, Kevin. I'm sorry.
All right. Where 5 James Way has a shed, the garage was built in 1960 before the Port Jefferson was incorporated.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to interrupt for just a second and remind that I know it's a little different when we're utilizing this format where we're taking typed comment in. I would just like to remind that the comment from the public is not meant to be a back and forth, but rather an opportunity to gain that comment, see if the applicant can address it, and then move on to the next item. So what I would say, if you'll pardon my interruption, is that if the neighbor has any additional comment, now would be an excellent time to put all of that forth. That way it would allow the applicant the opportunity to respond to it as a whole. And if there's any additional public comment in the waiting room, I don't know if there is any or not, Kevin, that we
There's
should
not.
try to keep all of that comment together for the sake of the record.
All right, excellent. Ms. LaMonica, I hope you heard that. If you could type any other comments or concerns that you have, I'm going to ask Kevin to put up exhibit, Ms. Pekoski, was exhibit 4 you said you wanted to see? The one that had the decks on it that you spoke of?
I think exhibit 4 shows all the decks, a lot of the decks in the area, showing that they all really do keep to being on the back of the property and not in the side yard.
Okay. We'll let Kevin bring those up. Okay. I don't think we saw this exhibit before, so take a look. All right.
Sorry, there's a few pages. It just shows rear yard decks. It's a little hard to see. 5 James Way, their deck has a
7 Village Woods, 100 Burke Road, 7 Village Woods Road, okay. Since we didn't see this exhibit and we're waiting for Ms. LaMonica if she has any other questions, I'm gonna go back and ask the board if the board has any questions regarding this exhibit since we didn't see it previously. Seeing none, hearing none. I'm gonna give Ms. LaMonica another minute or so if she has any other comments. If not, I'm going to close out that portion unless she has any other further questions or comments.
Have to do it.
Sure. Ms. Pekoski, just bear with us. We're just trying, this format sometimes can be a little time consuming. All right, Ms. Pekoski, I'm going to ask you, we're required to make a decision on 5 criteria. I'm going to ask you some questions. Please do your best in answering them to the best of your ability. The first criteria is whether this benefit could have been achieved by other means feasible to the applicant. Can you answer that or give us any comment on that?
the house is already the house is already built on a variance, so to do anything behind the house would require a variance. We can't do anything back there.
Okay. And as we previously stated, you could put it on the side yard for the deck, but the accessory structure could go anywhere and not require a variance, as was stated by staff earlier. The second question, would you consider an undesirable change in the neighborhood or the character or to nearby properties if we approve this application?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, what was?
So do you think if we approve this application, it would cause an undesirable change in the neighborhood's character or nearby properties?
No, it would not.
Okay. Whether the request is substantial, that's more of a calculations number, which I believe staff put in their report percentage-wise. And Lisa, what were the percentages on the 3 variances, please?
It is a large request. I recognize that. And I need to speak to the fact that in order to keep with the character of the neighborhood, that it is necessary because of the unique shape of our lot.
Okay. Whether the request will have an adverse physical or an environmental effect on the property or the neighborhood?
No.
Okay. And whether the alleged difficulty is self-created, I think we would say yes to that, but because you could go rear yard, but that's that's not a fatal flaw either way, one way or another. As you stated earlier, anything in the back of that property would require a variance. Just for the record, Ms. LaMonica said, no, I have nothing more to comment. Yes, it would be definitely affect my backyard. That being said, Kevin, I don't know if we can release Ms. LaMonica, or actually, I'm sorry, Lisa.
Okay. I guess I've been made host.
Yes, I thought you knew that,
Yeah.
Lisa.
All right. No problem. I will. Thank you, Ms. LaMonica, for your comments. They've been added to the record. We will now move and that.
And Lisa, can you confirm for us there's nobody else in the public that is waiting to comment?
Let me see. There's no one else waiting to comment. No, there's no one else waiting to comment.
One last time, are there any questions or comments from the board regarding this application based on public comment or the additional exhibit?
Yeah, so the covered portion of the structure, how will we address, or how do you plan on addressing any runoff from that structure? Will there be gutters on this structure?
Yes.
Ms. Fikowski?
Oh, yes, yes. There's going to be a dry well actually built to collect some of the runoff. The runoff would actually go underneath our existing patio, and we don't want to hurt that structure. So we're going to have a dry well built.
And
Is
just for the
that-
record,
Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's addressed by planning, but that would be a
French drain,
planning
is that
item.
what it's called? I think drain. I think I said it wrong.
Okay.
Now,
Any further?
yes, you had mentioned that the
Yeah,
back
Andrew.
of that structure was enclosed with a wall. Are the sides enclosed as well?
No, just the back.
Okay, so it's open on 2 posts and 1 wall that backs up.
3 sides are open, just the back is closed.
Okay. So the appearance from the property in question would be primarily of a shed, but you might see around the corner of it a little bit.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I would just say for Ms. LaMonica, if she is still attending the meeting, if we choose to approve this in our conversation, that to know that the alternative, as it's been spelled out, I'm not sure it was made fully clear that she could put an accessory structure in this location without a variance if it were not a deck. So the distinction of being able to put something, if I understand correctly, that close to the property line would still be an option that they have. Just not, it's the deck in question getting close to the property line that's the issue, and the 3-foot variance on the height of the structure. So just as you have a garage backed up on one side, it would be allowed for her to put a shed or a garage that close on the other side without coming to us. Is that a fair description?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none and hearing none, do I have a motion to close this application?
Close the hearing, right?
Close the hearing, apologize. I'll make a motion then to close this hearing.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you, Ms. Bukowski, for your time, and you'll be notified by staff about our decision.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good evening. Lisa, can you release Ms. Bukowski?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Questions or comments on this application? Dan, you still with us, or you just hiding?
He's also muted.
You're muted. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm walking downstairs. So I'm going to turn off the camera.
Okay, no problem. I just want to make sure you can hear us. I didn't know if we lost you. Got it. Let's hear thoughts and comments on this application. Anybody? Bueller?
I think there's very strong arguments made in favor for this being a reasonable exception. I think we're given pause by the fact that the neighbor right behind seems to have strong objections. I think it's always tricky when there's sort of different things being asked and certain things would be allowable as of right without a variance, like the shed that close to the property line directly on the other side of her fence would be entirely allowable if it were 3 feet shorter and weren't part of a deck. So it's difficult to explain that that's an alternative, and whether that assuages her fears or not, it's even harder when the mode of exchange is not in person as we would like it to be. I don't know. I'm spelling out why I'm thinking and why we're all kind of silent. I think it's weighing both sides of this.
Well, and positioning, the deck or the structure on the side yard where it wouldn't require a variance, could potentially have an undesirable effect on the community, right? I mean, you have two other neighbors who it would negatively impact who stated the same. So.
Right.
And technically, if you put it in the side of our house, number one, it's just logically not the place you put a deck, but it would be essentially in the front yard of their neighbor. Their neighbor would be looking right at it. And as Allison stated earlier, and I think Lisa stated earlier, that although the neighbor has a problem with the accessory structure, they don't need a variance for the accessory structure. If they were just to build this on a standalone, she could put it right up just like hers is, right up against the property line and not have an issue. They did show that there was a couple other properties that had rear decks, so it's character. And I think this board's seen plenty of rear decks in there. If you've been on this board more than 10 minutes, you've seen more than your share of decks in the rear of the property. So.
Well, it wasn't clear to me whether the objection of the neighbor was primarily that she's going to have more activity directly over her fence, or if she's going to have a structure directly over her fence. Because the structure, they could build as of right if it were just a little bit shorter. And the activity, they could build a patio as of right in that location or party on the lawn all they like. It's their backyard. So the fact that it's essentially that they'd like this thing to be lifted a couple of feet to be conveniently at the level of their house, and that trips them up on it becoming a deck and not a patio or a lawn, which is what they're here for the setbacks, and it trips them up on pushing the height up slightly on the accessory structure, which is why they're here for 3 variances when they could essentially be doing all the things that she's objecting to without any variances at all if they wanted to step down out of the house. That's what I'm trying to suss through.
I think she objected to the structure because in that, she could look over the fence and see what technically they see right now with their garage there.
Right.
But I think if they since it's 6 feet off, they could plant some, and I think they're going to do it anyway, plant some bushes there to kind of screen it so that you don't really see the,
right,
back of the structure.
The other thing is too, just to say, just go back to Andrew's comments, they currently have a masonry patio, as she stated on the record, and you saw from the aerial. So there is a masonry patio. So essentially she's lifting that 2 to 3 feet, whatever the exact numbers are. It's the structure that the neighbor may have an issue with, but it looked like the building that backed up to that property, which is this neighbor, took up a good portion of it already. And you could see from the aerials, there were a number of trees there, and the applicant did state that they would plant trees. So, I'm not dismissing what the neighbor said. I'm just, trying to also make peace with it. And Dan made a good point. To satisfy one neighbor, we would be upsetting 2 others from the communications we've gotten.
One other point, since there's been some discussion from the board regarding what could go there as of right, they could put a raised patio, masonry patio, all the way up to the property line without any rear yard variances. The reason that this deck requires the variance is that decks under the code are considered structures. They require they have footings, there's code that has to be met. They could, in theory, build a masonry patio to that point without any variance relief, as masonry patios are not considered structures under the code.
I think this
would look like.
I beg your pardon?
I said, I wonder what that would look like. I can't imagine what, I guess you're saying like, I'm sorry?
It might be lovely. It might have brick. little
Yeah,
bit-
a small retaining wall with a patio on top of it, little
These are all
planters
things-
around it,
Right.
all
a little
things that-
grass slope.
Yes, these are all things that could be constructed without any variance relief.
Which I think was the
Right.
point that I'm trying to suss out, because I'm always sensitive to a neighbor's concern, but my guess is that her concern are either on the form of a new visible structure in my backyard or more people having fun right on the other side of my fence. And both of those things they could do without a variance. So it doesn't really feel as if, it feels as if objecting to that, the variance on those grounds is an indirect way to object to things that aren't in our purview. Does that make sense? Now, the height of the structure, perhaps, and if you know, that's the one that might be most crucial or germane to her objection. But
Right.
that's the way I'm trying to think through it. And I'm sorry I'm doing it out loud. But
Well, I think the neighbor that would have the biggest issue would be 311 Thompson, which she stated the property was been vacant. So there's no comment there. There's already screening planted. So they've already been sensitive to that neighbor. So, you know, they would probably, someone I would expect would also have a comment, but you know, they have gone the way to put screening in. So they, you know, we've seen that they're willing to do that. I'm just going to walk through the 5 criteria real quick. If no one else has any comments, I apologize. Again, whether the benefit can be achieved by other means feasible to the applicant. Yes, you could put it on the side property, but we also have 2 letters from neighbors saying they wouldn't want it on the side property. And I think logically it makes more sense to put it in the back, but
Lisa
we
pointed
could say
out
it could be
something
achieved.
interesting. Oh, I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, go ahead, Andrew.
Lisa pointed out something interesting, which if I understood correctly, this is always an odd question because the benefit is ill-defined. In other words, is it a deck in the back behind their house that is the benefit and then there's no other way to achieve it? Or if it's a deck anywhere on their property, which is the benefit, in which case there is a way to achieve it. I don't know which we want to put in the application, but it's a fuzzy one.
Yeah, I mean,
Is there a way for her to make that structure, because we didn't really talk about the height of the structure too much. Can she make it shorter if that, you know, that might be the neighbor's issue is, like you said, the height. I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking about a wall there. But maybe if she could make it slightly shorter, is there a reason that she needs to be 18 feet?
I'm sure there is. Unfortunately, we didn't ask that question during the public hearing.
I would note that you did ask about the height of the deck itself, and that I believe she said was around 2 feet, or a little bit more to keep it even with the house, which means that they're putting a structure that's similar to 15 feet, which is our accessory structure height.
Right.
That is, but it's being raised because it's on a deck and not on the ground.
And even if it were on the ground, the percentage is so small, it would seem silly to approve 80% variances and then not approve a 10% variance.
Correct. I agree. All right. Whether the undesirable change in neighborhood character or by other properties, I think they demonstrated. They showed other neighbors. I think they showed 3 or 4 properties, possibly 5, that people with decks in the back. Again, the deck is the issue. Although the structure's got the height, we all know that could be built without any variance. So it's really the height. Whether the request is substantial, I think we could say 2 of them are. Correct, Lisa, am I saying that? That 2 of them are?
If you're defining it by the percentage, I don't know what your standard is. The variance for the rear yard setback is a 79.3% variance. The variance for the side yard setback is a 61.7% variance. And the variance for the pavilion height is a 24.5% variance.
I think we can also say that the 2 neighboring properties, whether before or after the incorporation, also are right on the property line and would require variances if that was the case. But I think from the numbers, we'd say it's substantial. And then whether the request would have an adverse physical or environmental effect, I don't necessarily see one. If anyone sees one, say so. And whether the alleged difficulty is self-created. You know, you can go both ways on that. You know, to put it in the side yard, it's not really reasonable because then you're sitting in your neighbor's front yard, so to speak. And because of the shape of the property, as Andrew stated before, it's not a rectangle. It's almost like a pie shape or a really weird shape. And so anything would require a variance.
Or you could say that it's self-created because they could choose not to want a deck. Like it's, you know, they don't need one in the first place. So they've made a problem by wanting a thing where they need a variance. But that's why this question is always nebulous.
Right.
I think the property is very small and it suffers from the cul-de-sac taking a chunk out of the corner, which redefines where you start counting the front yard from and shoves their house back into that corner, which they're trying to use strategically, but it does have them up against the lot line to effectively use their backyard. So,
and the fact of the matter is, any deck on the rear of this property, directly in the rear of the property, is going to require a variance, whether forget about the structure due to the shape of the property. So,
completely.
You know,
Yeah, so
like you said, it could go both ways. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if the question is the fact that they require a variance for a deck self-created? No, but as Andrew pointed out, you could say that, well, the need for the deck is self-created in the first place, but any deck off the back of their property would require a variance.
Yes.
And the reason for can you guys hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
We heard about the access points to this structure. So it appears that the reason for the deck, hence the reason for the variance, is to access this structure directly from the dwelling.
Oh,
Right.
which makes sense. Most people that put rear decks on do that.
Sure. So there is also another staircase to, I believe, the south of this, where they have the arborvitaes already planted along 311 Thompson, where there appears to be another deck or another staircase that would allow ingress and egress to this structure, right? So does that have an effect or environmentally to that side? I don't know, but
she did say there was already a path in that location. I didn't see stairs on the plan. It could have to do with the grade subtly shifting. Maybe it's not required. Maybe it's a shorter step down there, or maybe they just took a step down a block of stone. I'm not sure, but given she said there was already something there, and that I think walkways and patios are outside of our purview anyway, I don't think we need to.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's it's access, convenience, to be able to walk fully around the house if you need to do any maintenance on either side. Being able to cross the deck is probably useful, and that's probably the logic of that.
All right, any other questions or comments?
Only that if we were to not grant the height variance, they would essentially, just like the Berry case, they could probably do a flat roof on this thing and not need that variance, but then it would look less like a shed, which is more in character with the outbuildings and structures down the fence line. So just putting that out there.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? Since we have 3 different variances, just to keep everything neat and not to get yelled at by Allison, I'm going to ask us, we're going to vote on 3 separate variances. So if no one has any questions or comments, I'm going to make a motion that we vote on, I guess, I got to make a motion to approve first, or do I make a motion for the first one? Do I do them one at a time, read them, and then make a motion each one? Okay. First one being attachment to construct a deck with 6.2 feet of rear property line where 30-foot setback is required, the 79.3% variance. I'm going to make a motion that we approve that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Tracy seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? I see none. Second one is to construct a attached deck with 6.9 feet of side yard property line where 18 feet is required with 61.7% variance. I'm going to make a motion to approve that. Do I have a second?
So I second.
Andrew. All right, Andrew seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Opposed? Nope. Okay. Third one being to construct an accessory pavilion on a proposed deck with a height of 18 feet 8 inches, where the maximum height is 15 feet permitted for accessory structures, the 24.5% variance. I'm going to make a motion that we approve that. Do I have a second on it?
I'll second.
Antonio seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
What? Opposed? Seeing none, hearing none. Just for the record, this is a type 2 action under SECRA.
Yes.
That being said, I'm going to call this meeting a close. And I guess, Cindy, you'll notify Lou?
Yes, we'll notify Lou
All right,
and Monica.
I will write the decision
And,
and send it to you.
perfect. Allison, any other questions or comments?
Nope.
That's it. I'm going to call the meeting a wrap, and I'm going to say goodnight to everyone, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Andrew, tell your wife best of luck as a trustee, and remember what Confucius said, be careful what you wish for, you might just get it.
I will tell her right now.
All
right. Be well, all.
Have a
Thank
good
you
night,
very
everyone.
much.
Good night,
All
all.
right,
Good night.
bye.